It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear here on Declare Your Independence. With me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the BEA beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. We're going to Yemen today. Well, we're going to Helsinki, Finland, but we're going to be talking about Yemen. We have stories on Freedom's Phoenix right now that we're up in drone attacks in Yemen. Now, we've had people from Yemen, in Yemen, on the show saying, hey, you know, the U.S., they siding with the people now. It's all good. They got the GCC, their little, you know, Gulf community, whatever the heck there, have all these countries come together and said, you know what? The people. And I go, okay, well, what happens when this goes to Saudi Arabia? Are Western countries going to be supporting the people there? No, that's different, okay? Why is it different? Who's really in charge of what's going on in Yemen? So we need somebody to help us out here, because it changes daily. No matter, even if you're talking to people that are standing there in the crowds, it keeps changing, and it depends who you ask. Well, we're going to ask Susanne Dahlgren. She's in Helsinki, Finland right now. She's PhD in anthropology, University of Helsinki, the University of Edinburgh, and the London School of Economics and Political Science. She's got all kinds of credentials. Now, she's author of Contesting Realities, The Public Sphere and Morality in Southern Yemen. Now, let's go ahead and talk about that right off the bat. When you say Southern Yemen, is there a Northern Yemen? What different Yemens are we talking about?
Well, there has been two separate Yemeni countries before 1990 when the two Yemens unified. But still, people in the south feel that because they are marginalized by the regime, that they are still sort of living in southern Yemen. Okay,
now go ahead and give me a difference between northern and southern Yemen. Is it like North and South Carolina, Dakota, or is it like Mexico versus U.S.? I mean, how different is it?
If you compare Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Pakistan would be South Yemen and Afghanistan North Yemen, so that's the difference.
Okay, so are they trying to, and we'll get to the nitty-gritty here, but we've done this before, and I can see when you bring up like Afghanistan, the effort is to make a homogenous society. They want it to be, they want a national soccer team. They want everybody, we're all Afghani, and you talk to anybody in Afghanistan, they're like, there is no one Afghanistan. It's a bunch of tribes and different, cultures and ethnicities and even languages and traditions, and they just keep trying since forever, trying to put them in these boundaries that was drawn up by Western cultures, and they say, this is Afghanistan, y'all get the same badge on your sleeve and get with it. And they're going, no, we don't think that way. Well, in Yemen, are we getting kind of the same thing? Are they trying to force different cultures into one unit?
Well, certainly Yemenis are all Yemenis, but then it's basically it's a matter of different approach to modernity and such issues. So that's basically the contrast in Yemen.
Okay, right now we have people in the streets. Who? Why? And against what? And what are they wanting?
Well, people in southern Yemen, many of them actually want to regain their independence and go back and leave the unity with North. But basically these demonstrations this spring have been speaking in favor of fair rule, accountability, and democratic rights for the people.
Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about when you say North and South Yemen. As I'm looking at a map of Yemen, it kind of really, from our perspective, goes east-west. It's kind of so I'm wondering what is South Yemen, and the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is naval bases. The United States. I'm sure they got a couple of ships somewhere, and they want, we want to be in charge of the ports. So how does that play into it?
Well, not really, no. Yemen is these days no more sort of a strategic place. It used to be when it was a British colony, but it's no more a strategically interesting place, sort of.
So tell me about I hate using the word regime all the time. It's like whenever you say regime, it means it's got to be replaced. I'm going, yeah, well, call ours a regime. But when you have the government that is recognized by, I don't know, a lot of times somebody other than the people. But when you have the government there, the Obama administration and the bombing and the drones and the missiles and all that, when we hear about that, they're bombing who? For what? What side is the United States taking?
Well, the USA is mainly concerned about the Al Qaeda of the Arabian Peninsula, so that's their interest, and that's the target of these drones are supposed to be the Al Qaeda militants, but as it happens, it's mostly civilians who are the casualties that come with the drones.
Well, how are they targeted? Who gets to decide? Who determines that? Somebody raises their hand or makes a phone call or sends a signal, does something, and said, go bomb over there. How does that happen?
Well, that's the interesting question, because the Americans have been all the time complaining that they don't get relevant information from the Yemeni counterpart on sort of choosing these targets. And then that actually seems to happen because most of these drone attacks are failures.
And how do you determine failures? They're not taking out the intended individuals, or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. For instance, there was one failed attack against that cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, which took place a week ago, and it simply missed him.
So what is your position on this? How is it that somebody from Helsinki, an anthropologist, is involved in Yemen? Tell me how that came about.
Well, that's a long story, because when I was a young student, I had the possibility to spend the summer in a student camp in the countryside of which was at that time South Yemen. So that my interest started then. I noticed how really fascinating country and nice people it is. So I wanted to go back and study it properly.
Well, what is their perspective of the United States and Western countries? Are they starting to, view us as the bad guys? Do they still have some kind of respect for us, or just go away? What is their view of the American government and or the American people?
Well, the Yemenis don't have anything against the Americans. But there's a big Yemeni community in the USA, in Detroit area and somewhere there. And the Yemenis understand that the Americans are people, but what they are against actually is this war on terror, which in Yemen gets so many civilian casualties that they cannot support it.
Well, so what is you're talking about they're screaming for, we want more something. And we're going up on the break here. When we come back, that's what I'm going to be drilling on. I want to know what would make the people leave the streets. What are they demanding? What do they want? And what is the present government willing to give them? What is the position of the United States government? And how is it that, I'm not allowed to not care? I mean, am I in the United States, now it's Yemen? How many wars do we got to get in? I'm just wondering, what is so important that the American taxpayer, soldiers, people now have our attention focused on Yemen? What is going on there that's so special that we shouldn't be focusing on Kentucky, Florida, Arizona? We're going to find out, and the best person to tell us Right now is Susanne Dahlgren. She's going to help us out from Helsinki, Finland, understand Yemen. We'll be right back.